Hey, thanks for coming on the podcast, man.
My pleasure. Appreciate the invite.
It was a quick, I'll tell you this, you're a quick responder on emails, man. I love that part of it. Like, I felt bad. Like, we were trying to do some new scheduling things, and, like, all of a sudden, like, canceled all the podcasts. I'm like, oh, no. And I'm, like, shooting out emails, like, don't, like, it's not canceled. It's not canceled. Like,
yeah, it was kind of funny timing, too, because I had somebody else that was trying to get together for lunch. And I was like, well, actually, I just freed up. And then you were, thankfully, you sent the email when you did. And I said, disregard.
Yeah, exactly.
So, because I almost filled it in. Granted, I would have probably canceled that again, but...
This show is sponsored by Resilient Real Estate Group, powered by EXP. So, you're thinking about buying and selling soon? Yes, we know you probably know a realtor, your mom's best friend's cousin's neighbor, who puts her face on the local shopping cart. But you know what? Our friends at Resilient Real Estate Group have helped hundreds of thousands of people sell houses over the years, and they definitely know what they're doing based on their 5-star review on Google and Zillow. So, it doesn't matter if you're looking to buy $1 million house or a fixer-upper, make sure the next time you're thinking about buying and selling real estate, you give our friends a call over at Resilient Real Estate Group. And now we're back to the show. Yeah, so why don't you tell everyone who you are, man?
Well, my name is Angel Sanchez. I'm the Chief Executive Officer or visionary of Phenix Technology. We're a helmet manufacturer here in Riverside, California, celebrating our almost 52nd year in business. So company started in Orange County out in San Clemente, but we've been in Riverside for, well, definitely as long as I've been there, but 20-something years. And we're in the Hunter Park area. We manufacture primarily firefighter EMS helmets to a worldwide customer base. And so if you're in California, you're very familiar with our products, most of the fire departments in Southern California. And we're honored to have our very own Riverside City and the County of Riverside CAL FIRE utilize our helmets. So if you watch the news, you've probably seen our helmets before.
I would assume that's not is it a very competitive space?
More than you would guess,
really?
Actually. Yeah, considering
I would assume there's like 2.
It's a niche market. Now there's five or 6 just in the United States, and then of course you compete with Asia, so China, and there's another few countries that produce product. But most, thankfully, most firefighters worldwide look for American-made products. We're able to say we're 100% American-made. In fact, we're made in California, which is even harder to get certified on. And so as crazy it can be to do business in the state, we're able to be successful doing it. And that product that goes on firefighters' heads were made right here in the Inland Empire.
Is it moved? So what part of Inland Empire do you guys make? Do you make it at your spot in Riverside?
Yeah, we do. Right here by North High School over in the Hunter Park area. So we're on Durhard off of 3rd in Chicago. And so we have a number of relatively close by suppliers, so raw materials, things like that. But it all winds up there on Durhard and final assembly and ships from there.
Do you guys do like contracts per city? Is that kind of how it works? Or
so we work on a kind of a B2B model. So we have a distributor network. So we have distributors, throughout the country and throughout North, South America, Asia. They'll typically either have individual sales, or in most cases, it's a contract with a department, whether it's a city, whether it's regional. You have districts, you've got the state, just kind of the federal government, like military bases and stuff like that. So majority of those contracts are actually done by our distributors.
So you guys, is there a reason why you guys don't go B2C?
Yeah,
have you guys always been B2B?
We've always been. That's kind of the model that's always had. We do some B2C. If you come by the shop and you need a helmet, we'll obviously process it. But in the fire service, the relationship's a pretty important thing.
Of course.
And to have a sales force which covers as much of the world as our helmets are going to would be nearly impossible.
Yeah.
At least fiscally, it wouldn't make sense. So distributors that carry helmets and turnout gear and boots and different components, that scale of economic scale is a little bit easier than what we would try to do just selling helmets.
Well, I guess the nice thing about your guys' business and what you guys create, it's not really affected by the economy at all. Do you see the ups and downs of it? Or is it more or less, obviously, did you guys, everyone saw a big burst during COVID. I assume your business is more a steady business, or?
Yes and no.
Okay.
And so our I guess I'll call them standard products, kind of because we make a leather helmet, which is actually a firefighting helmet. It meets the requirements of the NFPA and all the standards necessary, but it's kind of a luxury item. And so departments, governments, the taxpayers typically buy a much more affordable option. So that's a little bit more stable, where we're they traditionally buy on a schedule and replacement, stuff like that. When it comes to leather, that's kind of dispensable income. So as the economy starts to tank, then, the money in both of our pocket is a little bit less. So spending $1,000 or $1,200 on a helmet may not be a priority.
Is that what it costs on
for a leather helmet? Yeah, they're around $1,200. So, which is, it's funny. I think back to when I started with the company, they might have been $400 or $500, and of course, customers and others will say, "Man, I can't see spending $1,200 on a helmet." And I think, have you ever bought a purse
or iPhone
or anything? Yeah, I mean, it's veg tan leather. It's an expensive leather. It doesn't have all that chemical processing. They're handmade. They're a lot of work, and at $1,200, they're actually quite a bargain. But then again, I'm not buying one myself, and so everybody's got kind of their upper thresholds and what they're willing to spend on things, and so kind of a long answer to make it short.
What would be the benefit of having leather versus just a plastic one? Is there?
It just looks nice.
Looks nice.
Yeah. No, the helmets are. They're all built. Every helmet on the market, even our competitors, I'll compliment them all. Everybody makes a really good product. It's going to provide a high level of safety for firefighters, much more than the human body can even tolerate. Those helmets are designed that way. When it comes to ours, it's the same thing. Across the board, all of our helmets are going to far exceed anything your body's capable of withstanding, as far as the environmental impacts and things like that. Leather just looks really nice. It's very traditional.
Yeah.
It dates back to the forefathers.
I assume a lot of captains have it. I assume
You
know what? I would assume a lot of because when I was 18, I was going through the fire academy, and I feel like the captain should almost have a leather one.
Depends on where you're at. So leather is traditionally more of the East Coast.
Yeah, I feel like Chicago, New York, Boston.
Yeah, you'll get along the whole Eastern Seaboard. Some in the kind of the Midwest wears a traditional style. Texas is kind of a mix. So you'll have.
They drop $1,200 on cowboy hats. So what's
right.
a helmet? You know what I mean?
Helmet's nothing, but they're kind of wearing more of our contemporary style, like you'll see out here in California. So majority of our customers in the West are wearing. We call it the first due. It's a contemporary style. It's what you'd see if you walked outside right now and a fire engine went by. It's lightweight. It's incredibly lightweight, and so in some ways, it's the best helmet on the market, in my opinion. Leather's a little bit heavier, although we do have the lightest leather helmet on the market. Still a little bit heavier. So it's really you're wearing what your granddaddy wore, or you're wearing something that is truly a traditional icon in the fire service. But I can't say it's a better product.
Yeah. Can people customize them?
Yeah, we actually put name stamps and different colors and bends and things like that. So we're the only company that offers a NFPA compliant helmet that you can truly make your own.
Mm-hmm. Is that all just over the phone, or can it be all done online?
So the distributors will do all that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. So we get orders submitted to us, and it comes in with all of the specs built into it.
Yeah, I like always hearing about the directions companies are going, obviously with time and technology and all those things. And what kind of changes are you guys seeing in that space? Because obviously, a helmet is a helmet, but just behind the scenes in your business model, are there changes you guys are kind of making with technology and moving forward? Or?
Well, from a business perspective, there's a lot of changes, not necessarily just in technology. From a market, from a voice of a customer perspective, firefighters are very traditionalist. And so what they've been wearing especially when it comes to helmets, what they've been wearing for 40 years, if some of them could continue wearing that, they would. So you don't see as much change. There's a few companies that are introducing new products, but we still have the demand for, just leather helmets. They literally date 150 years back. And so we're not seeing as much as far as the materials are getting lighter, stronger, more durable. But the reality is a helmet looks the same as what I threw on, 30 something years ago.
You used to be a firefighter?
I was out here in Riverside County. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So, that's almost the same. It is the same helmet that I first put on, and it's what we're putting out today with just little modifications to the actual materials and stuff. Now, from a business perspective, we're changing pretty substantially. We're a lean manufacturing business. So we truly practice kind of the Toyota model of doing business. To us, that means two different things: respect for people and continuous improvement. So the respect for people thing we can talk about, but the continuous improvement side means we change on a regular basis. And so we're constantly looking to become more efficient, provide a greater value for the customer, increase quality, and all those various things. And so we have a number of changes that take place really daily. If you look at how we practice lean, and it's kind of revolutionary. So if you came by and visited 2 years ago, heck, if you came by and visited 2 months ago, and then you came back in, you'd be like, yeah, things have changed around here. And that's kind of the model we've been practicing for the last 7 or so years.
So why don't we touch on the other thing about taking care of people? Because I know there's a new program you guys are coming out with and working with. Why don't you tell more people about that?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So, and even stepping back before that. So our core focus as a company, and a core focus, you would take kind of a vision and mission statement, and being lean, we just try to abbreviate as much as we can.
Yeah.
So we developed a core focus, and it's better people, better products, and a better world. And better people meant essentially 3 things to us. One's an academic approach. So we do a lot to invest in knowledge enhancement for everyone in our organization, even to the point of offering 30 minutes a day of paid development time for everyone. So if anyone wants to take a course, it has to be business relatable.
Yeah.
You can't learn how to ollie or something like that. But if you're interested in developing, we will pay you for at least 30 minutes a day to do that. We also send people to a number of courses with local colleges. We have an online system where you can log in and take over 400 courses. We invest pretty heavily in the academic approach. In fact, our onboarding is close to 480 hours. So you come in as a painter, and you're probably wondering why you're taking leadership courses and courses on lean and philosophy, because we study Stoic philosophy in the company. That's just part of the first component of that. The second is a spiritual approach, and it's in a non-secular fashion. There's no specific religion. Essentially, if we put it down to its core, it's just being better people.
Yeah.
And so we do our best to enhance everyone that joins our family. And that comes, I mentioned, we study Stoicism. We look at our involvement in the community, and just everyone that comes in. I recognize not everyone's going to stay with us. And that's a good thing, because we're hoping to spread our word out there to more and more people. But essentially, we're looking to every day become better as an individual as well. And then the last part of it is in physical and mental well-being. And, that manifests itself in many, many ways. And I'm not out running marathons or doing anything like that myself. But, when you look at how stress is manifested in the body, and how really that's the killer of a lot of people, is what stress does to you.
And I think finally that's coming, because back in the day, it was not a thing to talk about stress.
Not at all.
It wasn't even a thing. It was like everyone brushed on the rug, but it just leads to so much health issues now.
It does.
And I don't know if, I'm only 36, so I don't know how it was a little bit, but it just seems like with the world pace it is now, it's just like a higher level of expectation. And I don't know if it's called like the Amazon effect, but it's like everyone wants something right now and everything's so instant. So it's like the pressure is a lot higher in life, but
it's true. But there's a balance to it, because there's also a lot of people that recognize that there's more to life than working. And think about it, and I both probably work more than 40 hours a week.
100%.
Is there anything you do on a daily basis or a weekly basis that takes up more than 40 hours? It's doubtful.
No, and then you have to you read so many books, and then it's like, okay, what's my morning routine?
Yeah.
Then it's like, am I reading enough? And then I'm watching enough videos, and am I training? And then I got to worry fitness, and then I got to journal, and then it's like, that's almost a second job at that point, just to get ready to.
And then you might get 6 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
And so we've come up with the mentality that work shouldn't suck. It's the thing you do the most, and it should be really one of the more fun things you do. Of course, I love spending time with my family and traveling and doing all those things, but I also love coming to work.
I love to work.
Our people do too.
Yeah.
And that's part of that physical and mental well-being. One of our core values is create an environment of joy, because that's what
if you have better, happier employees. Because how many employees do you guys have there?
So we're around 36.
So you're 30. You're such a small team that one bad, unhappy person or whatever then spirals very quickly. You're not that many employees.
It's very toxic.
Yes.
Yeah, it can have an incredible impact. And creating an environment of joy means a lot to us, and even to the point of relationships. I mean, I talk about love in the workplace, and we, as a company, we talk about love in the workplace, which sounds incredibly strange to most people. What do you mean love?
Well,
That gets you in
because it's
trouble.
like, oh, you got to balance. You got to keep stuff separated. It's California. You got to have, you can't keep it, but it's like when you care about your people.
Absolutely. It has a tremendous impact. So,
it does.
By having that conversation and recognizing, well, and one of the things is nobody's an employee. It's their family members.
Yeah.
And not in a goofy way that a lot of companies look at. They'll say, oh, family members. Do you really mean it? We do. And so when we make decisions, we're making decisions looking at the impact to our Phenix family members, looking at the impact to our customers and our distributors and all of those different things. But a lot of stuff we're acting in love. And I'll tell you about a program in a moment here that we initiated that had no financial ROI. It wasn't a business move. It was it was actually moving in that continued direction of creating love and things like that in the workplace. Now, of course, oftentimes we think of love as romance and things like that. And that's not the case at all. This is more of like a family environment.
It's almost like the fire world.
Very much so.
They have love for each other, that brotherhood.
Worldwide.
Where it's like, it doesn't matter where you're from. And I think, it's been a long time and if people are younger than me, they don't remember. But like 9/11. Like I had buddies that were Riverside City fires and then their dads were Riverside City. And the next day they're like, my dad's leaving. They're jumping on planes. It was not even a question. It was like, we're going. And everyone was jumping on planes at March and flying there to help their brothers out.
I don't know if there is a occupation that has a stronger bond than the fire service. Military, but even in the military, I think it's within, like your special forces and things like that.
But
in the fire service, exactly, it's just fire. Whether you're a wildland firefighter or you're a metropolitan firefighter or you're a volunteer in a small town in Kentucky, you're part of the fire service. And there's just really a tight bond amongst that. And we try to have the same thing. Even to the point where I won't accept two people that don't get along. So if you and I are working together and we don't like each other, that's going to have to change.
Yeah.
And so we've hired therapists and marriage and family relationship counselors to come in and work with people so that they can either resolve their issues or leave.
Because the issue is now, especially nowadays, and probably you guys feel this because I know we do, is if I have a good employee, I'd rather invest some money in them to keep them happy than try to go find a new employee.
Yeah.
Because you say you have 400 hours of training. I'm going to have to be paying that person while they're training, which if they don't work out or they're also then a bad seed, then it's I just wasted that money. When it's I'd rather just keep my employees happy
Absolutely.
and invest back into them than get rid of them and go get someone else.
Yeah. And that's a model that a lot of businesses follow. They'll just kind of, teach you how to fire people as a leader or a manager. Just, we need numbers. We need numbers. And they don't recognize the long-term financial impact, but the reputational impact too. And
because people don't want to go work there.
And it's not doing the right thing. And we purposely have that focus the way we do, where Better People leads that. That's the most important thing to us is our people. And the reason for that leads to the second part. It's better products. So like you said, if people are happy,
they work harder.
They work harder. They're invested. They're loyal. They care.
Yeah.
And so they're going to make sure
they're going to go that extra little mile.
Every single time.
Every time.
So we have better products. So the durability of our products, the quality of our products, the comfort, the look, everything about it is at a higher standard because we have better people. And the other thing is the delivery of service. We believe in providing delightful customer experience in everything we do.
And the funny thing is what you guys do is such a small niche too. So it's you have to be so good in that little niche because you said you're only competing against 5 other companies.
Right.
So it's if all of a sudden the bad product starts turning over, especially nowadays, it's it could get everywhere and then there you go. And that's hard to come back from.
Well, and that same bond we talked about, that word of mouth also carries very much.
Yeah.
So that organic growth definitely has a lot to do with that.
Yeah. I mean, I tell people all the time, people don't leave a company the only reason they'll leave if you feel unappreciated.
Absolutely. People
want to work hard for you. And they just want to feel appreciated. They'll take less money to feel appreciated than go and chase money. People just want to feel appreciated.
Right.
I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're the owner. I think even owners want to feel appreciated. It's hey, this is all hard. We're working hard. We're together. Just appreciate. I appreciate you. You appreciate me. Thank you for that. That's it.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that because we have a daily meeting, and the whole company comes together every morning at 7:30, and we start with gratefuls. And sometimes those are 2 minutes, sometimes those are 10 minutes. But it's that sharing of appreciation for each other. And sometimes it's, I appreciate the fact my mom was here over the weekend or whatever it was somebody may have had over the weekend.
You know I can waste no time, cause I gotta keep it tight. I'm in my bag, got my eyes on the price. You know I can waste no time, cause I gotta keep it tight. I'm in my bag, got my eyes on the price. You know I can waste no time, cause I gotta keep it tight. Give me the bass, give me the beat. I'm in my bag, this round is on me. Give me the bass, give me the beat. I'm in my bag, this round is on me. Give me the bass, give me the beat. I'm in my bag, this round is on me. Give me the bass, give me the beat. I'm in my bag, this round is on me.
But a lot of times it's showing appreciation for each other. And it's such a powerful sentiment.
Because you're a team.
Yeah.
Your hard work is being noticed.
And, you know, that value that each member of our Phenix family has, that feeling of value, that means a world of difference. And that's how we're able to deliver the better products. And as a result of that, you know, here we are 50 plus years later, we've decided that, and this goes, I don't own the company, I'm our CEO, but we do have an owner. And the board, we've essentially decided that we want to reinvest in the community. And it's not in just our customers. Of course, we support a number of customers in various different nonprofits and ways we do things. But we want to make leaving the world a better place, better world, that ultimate focus. And so we do that in a lot of different ways. And so you'll see us all over the place. You go to a chamber meeting, you'll probably run into me. We have a member on the U.S. District Export Council. We've got members that serve on various commissions and committees. But we also adopted Park Street in downtown Riverside as Adopt a Street, you know, through the chambers Keep Riverside Beautiful. We didn't go and say, hey, can we get that easy street over here? We took an area that's, you know, somewhat of a challenging area, right? I mean, demographically, that's a high-risk area, and we purposely asked for a big section of that so we can help work on revitalizing that community. Things like Relay for Life. We put out these big teams that go out and raise money, and you know that's very closely tied to the fire service because of cancer. But we're doing all these different things in the community. But the best one of all is our most recent as in 2021, is our Opportunity for All program, and that is where we're now truly offering opportunities for those that meet that diversity that nobody talks about. And that is those with intellectual and physical disabilities, but really focused on our neurodiverse community. Maybe people with autism, Asperger's, even bipolar, Down syndrome, things like that. The unemployment rates are, you know, you'll see different reports, but as high as 80, 90%. Those with college degrees with autism have around an 82% unemployment rate. So this is a very diverse culture that nobody's talking about. I shouldn't say nobody. There's a lot of good agencies that are out there.
It's just not the number that people put on. If you asked the random person on the street, they wouldn't know that number.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And they wouldn't even think it's a problem.
And most wouldn't be open to hiring. And so in 2021, and I had a little bit of experience. I had a wonderful aunt with Down syndrome growing up. And so I didn't have necessarily that fear of the unknown that some people have. And in, 2019, 2020, when we were really realizing success and wanted to do something a little bit more, we thought, let's reach out to this community and offer some opportunities for employment for people in the neurodiverse community. And that started really in 2021 with our first hire. And that individual came to us scared of society. He wore headphones with the music blaring, dark glasses, would stay in his workstation, couldn't put him with other people, wouldn't interact during lunch and breaks. He would just stay in his workstation and had a general fear of kind of society in general. About 6 months later, maybe a little bit less, he became one of the most social people we have. He'll still wear the earphones sometimes, but he's got the glasses off. I could bring you by right now. I mean, it's been a few years now, but even back then, could bring you by and introduce you, and you might get a fist bump. He may even tell you a story or two. He'll come into offices. He's part of normal society. He goes shopping on his own. He's interactive. And we saw the difference we made in that individual that was much more than just offering a job. We started seeing true social mobility. The ability to maybe someday live on his own, to really lift his family up. Because think about it, if you're a caretaker and you have somebody in the home that doesn't want to be outside or doesn't want to interact with people, doesn't necessarily have job skills or doesn't work, it becomes somewhat of a challenge for you, right?
It becomes difficult. And then it's the ability, we morally deal with clients that like have their partners that like, that they're aging and like the moment they go put them in a home, like they're like, I'm just, cause it's like 24/7, you're worrying about them. You're thinking about them.
Sure.
You're trying to take care of them. So it's probably the same thing where it's like, and you want to see them progress in life. Like, that progression, you want them to have purpose.
We all want our children to succeed and be happy, more importantly. And there's a lot of limitations to that for the neurodiverse community. And so we wanted to just do a good thing and hire somebody. And what we realized is we had the ability, because of the culture we have, to truly change lives in a very unique but powerful way. And so that one individual who is just amazing to talk to, he was able to pass his GED finally after trying for a long time, and he's just an everyday person, but that works like a machine. He's incredible from an employee perspective. We thought we can do a lot more, and so we called it the Opportunity for All program when we first brought the young man on, but it became an Opportunity for All program over the next few years, and so. Today, that program means to us 5 different things. One is the targeted hiring of neurodiverse candidates. And so making sure that we open our doors. And things like the interview process may be completely different. You think about how many interviews you've gone through in your life, and they probably just read off questions.
Knock out the same questions.
I may not be able to do that with somebody with autism. So there's ways to kind of work alongside to realize they're going to be beneficial in your workforce. So the targeted hire. And the second part was, we're still a small company. I can't hire hundreds and hundreds or thousands of people, but what can we do to have an impact to give them job skills? So we started a work study program, which today has evolved into a cohort program where we have candidates that come in. They actually are in the classroom for a few hours in the morning. Then they get some on-the-job training. They get work experience. And whether that's in assembling helmets, we have people in marketing, even janitorial. We're offering opportunities, and janitorial was a hard one. Our place is clean. If you come by at any time, it's spotless. I was like, I don't need janitors, but hearing from the service providers and those that are helping identify opportunities, they said that might be the option of employment that they're able to get.
It's funny you say that because that's what we used to use here in my office.
Oh, did you really?
Yes, my buddy worked for a nonprofit, and that's what they did. He would go out and find jobs for them, and he would go out and Cheesecake Factory and things in the back. And so, he's bought and sold a lot of houses with me and stuff. So the moment I got this office, he just showed up with a contract. He was like, you're going to be hiring my cleaning service. And I'm like, yes, no problem. They would come every other week, 4 or 5 of them. They'd come, they'd mop, they'd just to keep them busy. And then they would go pop to another office.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like, you could just see, the funny thing is from when they first started coming to like 3-4, years later, like how much the same guys had like grown, because it was like, he just started with me, and then 4 or 5 years later he's still working, and now he's more interaction because they're used to life, they're used to being around people.
Absolutely.
They feel more comfortable. Yes,
they absolutely develop. And we have several incidents of that now, but the young man that we started with helped us realize that that's going to make a big difference in everyone that we bring in. So that work study program, it allows us to give you a little bit of work experience so that we can go to another employer. They can go somewhere else and say, yeah, I worked over at Phenix, and this is what I did there. And so they understand kind of the basics. And, in the cohort, we go over dressing for success, interview skills, all of the soft skills that you would think of. We do a pretty good job of preparing them to enter the workforce outside of our company. And that's a really strong part of what we're doing. And we were blessed to get a grant from the state of California, Department of Rehabilitation. It was an employability grant that allowed us to really expand that program. I was able to bring in a program administrator. So I have one person that's part of our Phenix family who is very talented, educated, and their whole job is this program. They don't provide really much for the end-use customers that are, that building helmets and things like that. They're just leading this program, and that we were able to make that happen through that grant. Excuse me. But that's been exceptional seeing that happen. The third part of it is what we experienced, and that was trying to figure out how to make this work. So there's special schools. There's, a book you can read here and there, not many. There's maybe a YouTube video you can watch. But there's really not a guideline for employers on how to hire people that maybe with autism. Because, what I've learned from one of our members of our family with autism is if you know one person with autism, you know one person with autism. And, just in our workforce, having 10 or 14 at a time, 10 or 14 totally different personalities. Just like with you and I, we have different learning styles and things like that. But there's special qualities that we need to maybe address and make accommodations for, and we didn't know what we were doing. And so part 3 of that is going to be to kind of write the book on how to, as well as how to get your workforce to understand the benefits and the beauty of working alongside people from the neurodiverse community. And so once we finish that, and that's going to take us a year or two, we're just going to give it away. And so as an employer, if you're interested in that, we have candidates for you, and we also got a book on how to do it. And then, of course, we'll work alongside with them to make sure it happens. The 4th piece is the employers. It's a risk. A lot of people don't, they'll kind of smile at you and say you're doing a great thing. And then I say, you have 7 openings. Why don't we fill one of them? And they go, well, we'll see. I'll get back to you.
Which is crazy. Were you shocked that there wasn't any things on, you were going to search for this stuff and you're like, how has no one looked into this or wrote a book? Or you go on YouTube, there's everything.
Right.
How were you kind of shocked? How has no one looked into this or started a program, or was that something shocking to you?
Blown away. And
because in my head, I think there would be. I feel like there's everything. I feel like there's everything out there like that. You would think that's been tapped into.
But we have to also look at, most things we do for that common denominator, right? And if a majority of employers aren't hiring people that are neurodiverse, then there's no benefit for someone to write that book.
Agree.
And don't get me wrong, there's some resources out there. Part of the other challenge is there may be a resource on working with somebody that's bipolar, or there may be a resource on adult learning theory, or, a number of different subjects, but nobody's putting it all together, at least that we found. And maybe somebody listening to this podcast will go, I've got that book.
Yeah.
And then that'd be great. Then we don't have to worry about it.
That saves us 2 years.
That resource was hard to find. And so we want to make it easier for other employers to do what we've done the hard way. And then the last piece of that is talking to our legislators, whether it's at a local, state, or federal level, and saying, we need to invest more. Providing incentives for employers. We need to, have more programs. And there's the Department of Rehabilitation has some great programs. The Inland Regional Center out here, they do some amazing things. There's a number of service providers like we work with, Exceed and Westview Services, and they're wonderful people, but they're fighting for the budget just like everybody else. And we need our legislators to realize that we need to make a bigger investment in this. And there's a reason why. It's not just because it's the right thing to do. A lot of what we do is because it's the right thing to do and because of our heart. But let's pretend for a moment I don't have a heart. And all I want to do is, Scrooge McDuck, make
as much money as possible.
All I want to do. So let's talk about the benefits we've seen without realizing this was going to be the case. Efficiency levels of 200% or more versus a neurotypical in a lot of cases. Now, we have some exceptional family members who are neurotypical, but for the most part, our neurodiverse candidates, they blow it away. Once you've taught how to do it and they've picked up on it, nobody can compete.
What do you think that is?
I think it's a focus. So especially those with autism, we're finding typically like routine. And once they get into that routine, they've got very special characteristics. Memorization, quality, attention to detail. I think all too often we've thought of neurodiversity as a handicap. And the reality is it just means we're a little bit different. And in many ways, they're people that we're seeing that we're bringing through the program are so much better than I am. I can't remember what I had for breakfast this morning. They're able to tell me
They have
details.
less certain strengths, but then that increases more their strengths.
Yeah, and a lot of times maybe it's a social thing where not comfortable in a group environment. But the way I look at it, it's just like, do you play any instruments? You play piano or guitar
Adrian
or something?
plays the drums.
So Adrian, if he was
a
in
big
here,
music guy.
he can play the drums and you and I can't.
Yeah.
So does that mean that we're neurodiverse? In a way, yeah. Because we don't have the same talent and skills.
Literally, I have no idea how people like read music or play instruments. Like,
it's a talent.
And he's someone that can just like he's funny. He'll be listening to a song. He'll be like listening, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" He's like, I have to play tonight." I'm like, "Okay." And he's like, "I don't know the songs." I'm like just listening to him, and he'll just listen to him and then be able to go play them. And I'm like, "How do you do that?" He's like, "I don't know. I've been playing. My dad was a musician. I'm a musician." Like, I'm like, I would never. Yeah. It's like I've tried to learn Spanish. I just can't do it. Like, I just don't have that skill set.
And there's others that'll pick up 6-7 languages.
That. I just think we all have different strengths. It's just finding the people.
People aren't going to go look at you and I.
No, 100%.
If we said I can only speak one language or 2 languages, I can't speak 6 like that person. Nobody's going to say, well, you can't work for me.
100%.
So why are we doing that for an entire community who may have 1 or 2 differences, but blow us away in their other talents? Yeah. And that's what we're finding. So the efficiency, second to none. Never, ever call in sick. Ever. We had one young man who got COVID. And of course, you don't want COVID entering your workforce. And he's trying to come to work. And we're like, you cannot come to work. And he's like, I'm fine. It doesn't matter. You can't come to work. I mean, he's so committed to being to work. Not only to work every day, but on time. Never late. And so I take that back. We've had 1 or 2 incidents a couple minutes late because of extenuating circumstances, flat tire, bad traffic accident, and they were mortified. Think about
it's so. I think because it's so important to them. They don't have distractions that we do. So we have other options or whatever. They're like, this is what I do. I'm grateful for this.
I think it's just more of that is the routine. Like they know they have to be that, and that's the focus.
God, I wish I was that routine.
Oh,
I've been trying to I've been trying to follow a calendar for like 3 years now. I can't
Well, and I have to have an assistant that tells me.
Me too.
Even today, she came into a meeting and actually she was in the meeting with me. She goes, "You have 5 minutes before you got to go." Yeah, and I was like, "For what?" "Oh, yes, you're right,
dude." So if I didn't have notification alerts, I would forget everything.
So think about those disabilities that we have.
Yes,
but nobody gives us a second thought. We can go in to maybe we can join a committee. You can sell property. But why are we not doing that for everybody?
Do you think it's because we can walk into a meeting and the way we speak, they can't determine those negative things that we have in our life based on the one level
possibly
of speech?
Possibly.
And where obviously if they or our interactions with people or
yeah, that's very possible. I think like one of the skills that my father taught me and I taught my son was you have to learn how to network and speak with people.
100%.
If you can't, you're going to be limited.
It's very hard.
And so that could be. And there's a lot of other factors that could be. I don't have all the answers.
I also think it's a level of people just until you see the possibility, you don't believe it. Like if you're
very much so.
If you're the workforce, you're like, there's no way. Like there's no. But how many times do we see someone that you're like that person shouldn't be successful and then they are, or the opposite where you're like that guy is like. I mean, maybe you have me like I've had people in this space where I'm like this person's gonna crush it. And they have all the tools. I'm like, you're going to crush it. And then 3 months later, they're gone. And like, what happened? They didn't have the work ethic. They couldn't show up on time. It's all the little things that you can't see. But you're like, dresses well, speaks well, knows people. Like, they're going to crush. And then they can't, like, they don't like to work hard. You're like, oh, well, shoot. They're like, I can't see that in an interview.
You can't. And that's, well, and just that process, too, the interview process.
Yeah.
Now, we've always done it a little bit different. Like, we have a requirement that you do a video resume. We will not interview if you don't have a video resume. And honestly, I could care less. Well, I shouldn't say this publicly. People are applying. But we're not really paying attention to what you look like, what the background's like, if you do it in your bedroom and your bedroom's not made, or even what you say so much as the fact that you did it. Because courage is one of those virtues that we're looking for in people. And we one time had a position for a customer service representative. We had 435 or something like that applicants. Only one did a video resume. So we knew that person was the only one courageous enough to do that.
Follows directions, like do these little things that...
And it was important to them.
Yes.
So we, of course, hired that person. And I kind of went off on a tangent on
That's
that,
fine.
but that
That's what
interview
podcasts are
process, that's true. Well,
This is what
interview-
a podcast is for, to go on tangents. That's why we do so well at these.
and that's why you can fill it in the whole time.
We
and
can do
get
an
some
hour.
That hiring process is a little bit different depending on who the individual is. And we'll even, people that are not diagnosed as neurodiverse will still change up the interview process. If you're sweating and you're really nervous, most important thing I'm going to focus on is just getting you to relax. Those are things that we do, but most employers don't. It's cookie cutter. You do the same thing over and over and over again.
Because it's some company is just so big that they're so corporate that they just turn over. It's like, and because you have the ability that you guys are a little bit of a smaller company, you guys can focus on more.
No, I think we could do the same thing if we had 400,000 employees.
Really?
I think it has to do with mindset. People have very closed minds. It's always been this way, which is a huge pet peeve of mine. But I think a lot of times it's what's easy, and they don't look at what the true ROI on something can be. They look at the quick results. And you mentioned it earlier with Amazon and places like that. I do it all the time. I guarantee there's a box at my front door right now.
I swear to God, my girlfriend has a box in my front door. I'd be so upset.
Every day there's something there. But because we want it quick, and that's why I do it. I don't want to have to go to a store, which sucks for the brick and mortar because I want to support those small families, but they're closing. So it's just easier to get stuff quickly and delivered. But we do that in every aspect of life. And I think the interviewing process, the resume review, and I mean, think about a resume itself. It's somebody's piece of paper written in a format that tries to sell them in their best possible thing.
You know I can waste no time, cause I gotta keep it tight. I'm in my bag, got my eyes on the price. You know I can waste no time, cause I gotta keep it tight. I'm in my bag, got my eyes on the price. You know I can waste no time, cause I gotta keep it tight. Give me the bass, give me the beat. I'm in my bag, this round is on me. Give me the bass, give me the beat. I'm in my bag, this round is on me. Give me the bass, give me the beat. I'm in my bag, this round is on me. Give me the bass, give me the beat. I'm in my bag, this round is on me.
I would rather have somebody write a resume that tells me all their weaknesses, that they've identified and what they're doing to work on it. But we'll never see that.
Or they just go like, I'm really good at this, I'm not good at this, so I really put myself in the positions of doing these things.
Yeah.
That's what I tell people all the time. Like, they want to do this sometimes. Like, people hit me up like, I want to do this. I'm like, yeah, but you're not great in front of the camera. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you shouldn't do this. I am terrible at writing. I can't write to save my life, so I'm not writing blog posts. So it's like, know your weaknesses, but then focus on the strength and put yourself in the positions to be successful.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess going all the way back, it's the interviewing techniques are a little bit different. And I think there's a laziness associated with a lot of companies. And you may have to process more, but why go through 1,000 people if you can figure it out in the first one? How much time are we actually going to say? Having that lean mentality in a manufacturing setting, applying it to your real life too, and your thought process has a big impact as well. And I would rather spend an hour and a half with you and make sure that probably number one, we're the right company for you, because that's probably more important.
Because you're going to learn about it in 90 days.
Yeah, and you're gone. And I put that 480 hours into you. And then the second thing is I want to make sure you're the right person for our culture and that you're going to fit in. And you could be, we talk about right person, right seat. Both of those matter. And you could be the most fabulous inventory person in the world or most incredible accountant, but you just suck as a person. You're ruining the company. Yeah. And so both of those really matter. And that's what we get out of those extended interviews and those modified interviews. And when it comes back to the neurodiverse candidates, they may not be able to answer those questions. So maybe we just go onto the work floor and talk and have them try to build something and see if their manipulative skills to build something is good. And what we're finding is it's fantastic. Pick stuff up faster than I ever could. So employers as a whole may have to modify things, but, I mentioned one of the great traits, or two, incredible efficiency, always there. No drama.
Oh, I bet.
No drama.
Yeah.
Incredibly grateful, loyal, happy to be there, but they're loving people as well. They're not trying to stir the pot and, start those cliques and all these different things that unfortunately a lot of us tend to
naturally do. Yeah.
And so that trauma is eliminated. That's probably the best value in most companies. Attention to detail, quality. We've seen our quality improve. And that ability, there's times that I'll be on the floor and somebody will show me something. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I can't see it. And then they'll pick out that little almost, you almost need, not a telescope. I'm losing my train of thought. What do you call it? Microscope. You need a microscope to see it. I'm like, how did you even see that? Just incredible attention to detail. So back to the Scrooge McDuck
Which I think
thing.
some guys like us are so like think quick, blah, 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 that we don't have the ability to zone in to that little thing.
At all. And so we're the ones that are good at those things that you'll see on social media that have no vowels or, they're missing letters. And it says, read this, and you can read it in 10
just jump
seconds.
Around.
Because you're able to fill in the blanks. But those attention to details
But those people
matter.
we also need.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
And the way our company is run. So our chief operating officer is really our integrator. She's phenomenal attention to detail, ability to process things, getting stuff done. Where I don't want to say I sucked at it, but comparatively,
I'm terrible at it.
We're a yin and yang. I'm the big picture person. I'm the put out the fire. I'm the one, the relationship builder. I'll deal with that visionary stuff. She makes it happen.
Give me try to put a system in place that I got to stick to is impossible. Do you guys follow traction? Is that what you
We
guys
do. We do. Yeah.
Just the
So
way
it sounds very similar. Yeah.
everything you're
EOS
saying,
model.
I'm like, okay, they probably have some rocks over there they're doing.
We got rocks. We got level 10 means. We got all. Yeah. We're fully invested in that, and it's been probably one of the best things that we've ever done. So Lean was kind of our first business change as far as a model goes, and then Traction works phenomenal.
Traction is great. It's just hard when you're I need that lady.
You have
me.
to have
I don't
both.
have that person.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find that person because I don't have the skill set to do that. I don't have it in me. It just kills me.
It's
the
definitely
worst.
it's a weakness for me.
Yeah.
And I was in both positions for a long, long time. And we did okay, obviously, as a company, but
It's just
God, it changed. It's like night and day. The ability to execute and get stuff done. Plus, it frees up my ability to be creative.
To go do what you do.
Or even think.
Yeah.
Think about how many days that you go by trying to. Your thinking is spent on a piece of paper, on a process, on writing something.
A process.
On a technician type of role or an integrator role. And you're not thinking.
It's awful.
And so this gave me the ability to step back and to kind of be a real visionary. There's still stuff I have to do where, we're growing into it, but I can envision that 5 years from now, I'm going to probably sit someplace and just think all day.
Which would be amazing.
Can you imagine the impact of a business by being able to do that?
Exactly, and just being able to grow the company in a way that's just it's just. And I think with small businesses, it's like you got to get past that hump to be able then to hire those people, and then that's when it
Correct.
I feel like you in a small business you do well in the beginning because of you and your hard work and whatever. Then you plateau because now you got all these moving parts that you're trying to put all the fires out, and you got to push through that to get those other people.
Yeah, and it's trusting your people.
Yeah,
and we all struggle with that. I try not to micromanage. But then when something doesn't go exactly the way I wanted it, then I fly off the handle and tell you it should have been this way. And really I should shut up and sit back and let them do what they need to do to really maximize their ability. Most companies, especially leaders, they really struggle with trusting others to do
it's
the work.
almost like you kind of not have to know about it. You kind of just have to out of sight, out of mind, let them do their thing and
give them the opportunity to fail,
and then let
support
them.
them.
Yeah,
of course you got to be there.
Yeah.
If a question's asked, you got to support. But I think it was Steve Jobs that said, "Why hire?" I can't remember. I'm trying to paraphrase it here, but why hire intelligent people or talented people and tell them what to do?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you're Steve Jobs, maybe you're the one person that should be telling people what to do.
Well, yeah. I mean, when you look at some of those, but even in that case, the way I look at things, I should be almost the dumbest person in the room.
100%.
And I made the smart choice of hiring talented people for every position. And I have that. I've got, in engineering and in operations and in finance and in those departments, they know a heck of a lot more about those, even down to the entry-level position, although I don't think we really have a true entry-level position. But that's another mistake that a lot of managers make. They come in and in an office somewhere, they sit down and write the SOPs or the policies or whatever you call it, the work instructions for people on the floor to do. And they never ask the people on the floor, what's the best way to do it?
And the last time they've been in that, if they ever were in that position or been in that position, they have no idea what that position actually,
Absolutely.
the ins and outs of it. And now you're making policies that make no sense. And then you're reading it and then you go back to management. You're like, this doesn't make sense.
And then you fire somebody because they couldn't perform.
It doesn't work in the real world.
Yeah, and those are things that are important, I think, as a leader. Well, there's two parts that I personally do, and the rest of our leaders do the same thing. One is we let them make the improvements.
Because they know
they
the
make
best.
the change. They're the subject matter experts. You don't do it every day. They spend, 35, 40 hours a week doing the same thing. Or, in our case, our people are cross-trained. But for the most part, they're kind of doing the same job every single day. And if I never went to the workspace, or we call it the Gemba, if I never went out where the action's taking place, how the heck am I going to tell them what to do? So now, that being said, I also do my best to go and spend a few hours a week. It's harder nowadays, but I used to do a manufacturing Monday where I only worked on the floor. No appointments, no meetings, nothing. I just did whatever they told me to do because I wanted to understand their pain points. And a lot of that had to do with their conditioning too. They didn't know you could say, hey, this sucks because the boss told them to do it this way. So they never said anything. But over time, we've changed the culture and they have no problem saying, this sucks. We need a better way to do this. Or they'll just say, this is a better way to do it and make the change. But even today, I still try to spend 1 or 2 hours a week pulling parts. I don't get in their way most of the time. I'll do kind of the simpler jobs because they're much better at it. But I get in the mix with them and try to figure out, this kind of sucks.
Yeah.
And we've implemented a lot of change because they knew it sucked, just were afraid to say it. And, nowadays I literally go in, I help them for an hour or two, and there's not a lot of feedback coming from me on how to improve a process because they figured out how to do it. But in the beginning, a ton of it. I'd like counting things. I'm like, you guys count these every day? And they're like, oh yeah, every day. I'm like, how much? And they're like, a couple hours. I'm like, there's scales. Why don't we have these scales? This sucks. Yeah. And we went and bought the scales the same day. I mean, there's little things like that leaders, if you're a leader and you're not, especially in manufacturing, if you're a leader that is not on the floor, especially if you're the integrator and you're not spending a majority on your time on the floor, you're not a good leader.
You're missing.
You're just not.
You're missing.
So wow, we went off on a huge tangent. I love the style.
Do you feel? Obviously, you guys are, you make helmets, and that is in the big scheme of things not a massive company. Do you feel like this new program that you guys are pushing is really starting to put you as a company just on the map more? Like I know you were on the news recently. So are you starting to see we're entering a different space where now people are seeing us as people that maybe didn't know about us before are now knowing about our company because of the programs? Yeah,
possibly. There's a different way that I look at things. And so a lot of times people will say, what do you do? And what I really think I do is develop people. That's funded by making some pretty awesome helmets. That's the ways. I mean, that's the way to get to the end.
We're such alike.
And what I want to do as a leader is just develop people. But I recognize that I don't have a trust fund.
Yeah.
I don't have the ability to change. I'm not king of the world that can say this is what we're going to do. So we have to keep creating value for our customers, creating incredible products. But there's a way to do both. You can continue living your core values and what your passion is and delivering incredible products. And then those incredible products can keep funding those passions and vice versa. To answer your question, I think in the helmet space, we were pretty renowned. We still have a good name. We're blessed. We have incredible customers. For lean manufacturing, we built up a name in that regard. In fact, we hosted here, just across the street, actually, we hosted the Global Lean Leadership Summit in 2019. So, little Phenix, we were probably half the people back then, had 220 executives from 22 countries come to the convention center here, and we put on a summit. So we had kind of a name in that regard, but I think we're entering a different space now. And it's probably, at least for me personally, from this part, the most important one, because it's going to have the greatest impact. I mean, lean's incredible. It redefines your business so that you can be more profitable, you can be more efficient, you can just become a better company. But we're talking about changing the world now. And that community that has been so often ignored, and probably because our parents or our grandparents told us that person's different, don't look at him. I was blessed because, as I mentioned, I had somebody in the family. So I learned early on that just because somebody's a little different doesn't make them less valuable. But all too often, that's a space that most people are in. They don't look at it because they're different in whatever regard. And that, that's at the core of the issues we have from an overall diversity perspective. In any way, whether it's race, gender, religion, or whatever, people are different, and you put up a front to that.
It's almost, but the thing is this wouldn't work if we were all the same.
No way.
None of this would work.
Would you even want it to work?
No.
How boring would life be if we were all the same?
Like even for us, like I can't do what my employees do. Like we can't, and they can't do what I do. Like Adrian knows everything about cameras, went to college, has all this stuff, can shoot any video he wants. You put him in front of a camera, he freaks out. He's like, I don't want to be in front of the camera. I'm behind the camera. Like, we can't all be the same. The difference is what makes the wheel go around.
Absolutely. None of us are omnipotent.
No,
there's no way that you could possibly do it all. And so diversity truly matters.
It's taking the time and resources to find what those people's strengths brings to society. Yeah. It's just wanting to spend the time and resources, if that's money or whatever it is, to find that.
And recognizing your weaknesses.
Exactly.
And then filling in those gaps with very talented people. And we're learning in that neurodiverse space, those are very talented people that can help us fill in the gaps. Now, here's another thing. How often do you hear, I can't find somebody, we've been trying to hire somebody forever.
All the time.
There's a huge group out there that I can introduce you to that we can fill those gaps. And oftentimes the employers go, well, maybe we'll do that someday. Right now I just got to worry about filling this position. I'm like,
but that's the thing. Would you rather, because it's the unknown. It's like you would rather hire listen, nothing against 17-year-old kids, but I remember I was 17. Do you want to hire a 17-year-old kid to work where he's going to be late? He's not going to care. He's going to call off. He's going to probably, he doesn't care about this. It's the ability to start realizing that.
Or even a 40-year-old that has
That's true.
Or a 50-year-old.
I mean,
just people in general that work ethic's horrible. And I've got an answer to that workforce. And what about the homeless? We know what it's like here in Riverside with the homeless situation. How many of those people? Now, we do know that there's different factors that lead to that. But maybe a portion, and a larger portion I think many will give credit for, couldn't keep a job because they were a little bit different. And that led them to those financial strains, which led them to homelessness, which then may have led to other things, drugs and things like that. But we have people in our workforce that have been with us a few years, and it's the longest job they've ever had. And they told us at the 1 year mark, I've never worked, and they're in their 40s or 50s, and they said, I've never worked at a job for more than a year.
It's sometimes hard when you aren't that person to understand there are people out there. Like growing up, my dad had the same job, worked at Shelley Brothers 39 years, he worked the same job his whole life, had a job, took 1 day off a week,
Right.
So hearing the things where people are like, oh, my parents jumped around from job to job to job. I'm like, my dad only had one job my whole life.
It's different.
That's all I knew. And that's why I always try to tell people, if the same thing happened to you happened to me, I'd probably understand or see the same thing that you do, but it didn't. So I just don't. I would have been, my parents always had jobs. Even when the market crashed, my parents had jobs. I didn't even know what was going on in the economy. I had no idea because it didn't affect us.
Sure.
Now that now that I do what I do now, I'm like, oh my God. Thanks for
Big time.
that. Holy crap.
Well, you have a different cultural lens now.
Exactly.
But we were raised with a certain lens.
One lens, yes.
And that's the same thing that I think prevents some of us from having an open mind.
You got to open it up.
And it prevents us from really maximizing not only others' potential, but our own potential. And, man, I'm doing a great job of being all over the place for you. But
I love it.
Back to the original.
I love it.
I think...
say it this Maybe way. You'll start your own podcast over this.
I'm not talented in that. I'll have to get somebody to come do it for me.
I mean, you're doing great over there. So,
but I'm gonna approach it in two different ways. Yes, I think in a lot of ways we're gonna build up awareness. People are gonna hear about us, and social responsibility is an important thing. Of course, our customers want to know we're socially responsible. Nowadays, especially this generation that are making investment decisions or purchasing decisions, they want to know that they're buying from a company that are good people.
Yes.
I think we're good people. Not only do we have that these programs I talked about, we're environmentally. I'd love to get down to a carbon neutral facility. Not quite there, but we do a lot of stuff for the environment to protect that as well. And I think overall we're pretty good people. Anytime you visit, people love us. And maybe not me as much, but the people they meet when they walk in the door, they love it. And that difference that we're making there fits that social responsibility. And I think that does help you from a business perspective.
100% it does.
If anything, just karma.
I agree.
Having good karma by doing good things. When it comes to this program, we had a really hard time of even telling people we did it. And it wasn't because we didn't want people to, it wasn't like we were hiding it, but we didn't want to be like, hey, look at what we're doing. We're wonderful people.
Isn't it so hard for that? Like
it's challenging.
You want to tell the world so more people know the idea, but then you have to worry, like, is it going to be taken the wrong way that we're like just doing it for the PR? It's such a hard thing.
But you have to do it.
But you have to do it.
So we have to do it just to get employers to look at what we're doing and come look in person and say, look, this works.
Because if you don't tell anyone and it's a success, then what's the benefit of that?
And then, of course, I do need customers. So I want them to realize that you're making an investment, not only in a company. If you drove by, you're not going to see any Ferraris parked out front. We make a good living, we pay a good wage, but we're looking to make an investment in the community. So when our customers invest in us, we're doing responsible
the money's going
and good
to
things
the right
with it.
place.
Yeah. And so all of that most definitely is going to be something I think is going to, grow our exposure. And maybe not even with customers, but with whoever, and definitely the community. But I got to be honest with you, my vision for this program is nobody knows who we are when it comes to this space. Because it becomes such an everyday normal thing that every business has a program like this. And there might be a few people going, I remember there was this company in Riverside that I think they made helmets, and they used to do this, 20 years ago. But ultimately the vision is not to be remembered for this. It's to be forgotten because everyone's just doing it. And, that might be a real pie in the sky perspective, but that's really what we're looking to do.
I mean, the thing is if it wasn't that long ago before women weren't looked at in the workforce, and what's going to be in another 100 years?
That's true. What was the first company that really started pushing that? I don't know.
Maybe.
I'm sure there's something out there.
There's some in there, but even like that, like you think about it, 120 years ago, women weren't really accepted in the workforce. Then they're not accepted as CEOs or CFOs. Now, I mean, some CFOs are great women because they're organized and they're like, that's their skill set.
There absolutely is no difference.
So then that's the thing. So in another 100 years, maybe the click is like, oh my God, we've been missing out on this sector of people for so long.
I'm hoping in the next 5 years, but yeah. That's the goal, is really to make it so that it's just mainstream.
It took one company.
And there's other companies.
Yes,
I don't want to make it seem like we invented this.
Yes.
And there's other agencies that are doing wonderful work out there. It just seems like we have a different perspective, and it comes in the format of we want the whole package. We want to be able to train, develop. And here's the other thing. I didn't really talk about this. When I say neurodiverse, that includes people that may be diagnosed with an intellectual disability and people that haven't been diagnosed. Because I think all of us
a little messed up.
There's something that we're different. But those that are considered neurotypical, a really important thing for us is that we keep a mix. So we try to do no more than 50% of our workforce is neurodiverse, and we're in 35% or something like that. That's a key factor too that we're doing differently, because there's a lot of great businesses out there that will maybe have a complete workforce that, there's companies that, and they're wonderful companies. They employ, 40 or 50 people with Down syndrome or different intellectual disabilities. We're purposely making sure that there's a balance, because we're not just looking to get work out of people. We're actually hoping that those people that are different and our people that are different grow from each other, that they pick up societal norms, that they pick up patience, love, and caring, that they pick up the traits that each of them have that are magical, and then they grow as better people. And that's good. That's something that I think we're a little bit different. We're not looking And there's days, I'll be honest with you, when I look at the numbers, sometimes I'm like, man, let's just bring in another 20 people.
Well, yeah.
And we can, if we can get efficiency higher, but it doesn't.
The bottom line, and that's the thing, is that it's more or less realizing like it might impact your pocketbook, but the overall meaning behind it's not the same.
Yeah, what's the long-term impact too? And so I tend not to, which is my role, obviously. I don't think about today. I don't think about tomorrow. I'm looking at 5, 10, 20 years out. We have great people, integrators, that do the today stuff and make sure things happen. But, if I make a poor decision today, what does that impact us like? What's that impact like in 5 years? And I think all businesses really should start spending more focus on people. And here's how I can tell you it's
Especially when
working.
everyone's focusing on technology.
Well, yeah, I mean, AI is wonderful, and technology, and that's one of the things. We don't have all these robots in our facility, and sometimes we look at it, but the flexibility is not quite there. And I'm not going to say we won't ever move towards some automation, but there's not a robot on this planet that can compete with a person still.
You know I can waste no time, cause I gotta keep it tight. I'm in my bag, got my eyes on the price. You know I can waste no time, cause I gotta keep it tight. I'm in my bag, got my eyes on the price. You know I can waste no time, cause I gotta keep it tight. Give me the bass, give me the beat. I'm in my bag, this round is on me. Give me the bass, give me the beat. I'm in my bag, this round is on me. Give me the bass, give me the beat. I'm in my bag, this round is on me. Give me the bass, give me the beat. I'm in my bag, this round is on me.
I don't think it's there yet. Like, especially AI. Like, everyone's like, AI. I'm like, I spoke at a conference a few weeks ago, and some lady right before me was like, all the great things about ChatGPT and AI and all this stuff. And I felt bad because I went on and I said, that's great for right this moment because not everyone's tapped into it. But what happens when everyone taps into it and everyone is just repeating everything that ChatGPT says? Then it's going to go back to, what do you think? What do you know? Because sooner or later, if everyone takes AI, it's everyone's saying the same thing again.
Right. Yeah, we're regurgitating
it. And there's no substance behind it. And what I also don't think people realize is like, that's great, but then when you meet face to face with something, you are still not replaceable. Like the human acts.
No.
Like, so when you go meet with that person, you can't be over here like, okay, ChatGPT, what should I write these back? Like it doesn't work like that.
Can you imagine that? You got the glasses on.
Oh my God, it's like you're just reading it, and then it's funny. It's like I'll ask them. It's like we'll ask a question, and it'll say like, we don't know the answer to that. I'm like, exactly. Like there's certain things that humans still only know the answers.
Well, how's our spelling nowadays?
Oh my God, I know.
I can't even spell anymore, and I didn't have computers growing up.
I know.
I'm a couple decades older than you. We learned how to cursive, and we learned how to spell words. But I've gotten so used to the computer correcting me that there's words I'm like, darn it. If I write, I try to handwrite thank you letters and stuff, and I'm like looking up words. I'm like, this is a simple word. What's AI going to do to us in that regard?
Oh.
You won't be able to think at all. So let's hope that doesn't become the case. But where I was getting at with that is the focus that as employers and as leaders, we have to start putting our people. And I know we're doing a decent job from a number of different ways. One is we do, most people would call it an employee satisfaction survey. So we're best in class in almost every category. No, it's more than that. I think it goes out it's auto-generated. So it sends out, it's on an algorithm. So like if you put something let's say more constructive, negative, it'll start sending you more questions to learn more from that. And they provide feedback. So we're best in class in almost every category. You get a little dip in happiness, but we have a goal of being at 8 out of 10 and above in every category at all times. Those scores are pretty good. So that tells me we're not doing a bad job. But there's two other things I think that really over the last few years, coming out of COVID, that told me we're doing something right. The first was we grew coming out of COVID. Going into COVID, we suffered, but we planned, we prepared, we ordered extra inventory, and we never laid a single person off. And so when our customers said, oh, yeah, we still need helmets, we were ready. And I'm not going to say we were the only ones that was ready, but it seemed that way because orders started coming in. So we grew. We were blessed. As we started to come into 21 and realize things are starting to kind of get back to normal. I remember talking to my assistant and saying, hey, we need to blow out some of these offices so we can expand our production capability. And she says, well, where are we supposed to sit? And I was like, well, you and I will still have my office area. And she goes, what about everybody else? And I said, don't they want to work remote? That's the big thing. I see it on LinkedIn every day. And she said, no, they don't want to work remote. And I go, you're crazy. We're going to do a survey. We'll ask everyone in the company. At the time, we had 15 or 17 people working remote. because during COVID, anyone that wasn't building went remote. So we sent out this survey, and your options were work from home full time, or you can come in 2 days a week, work from home 2 days a week. Or how about we just make it so we'll put up these hot desks, you can come in whenever you feel like it. Or the last one is full time in office, always work from the office. We had all but one person who's no longer with us because they didn't really fit our culture. All but one person full time in office.
Really?
So real estate, I had to go find a new building. So we were kind of in a tight spot because we wanted to do it a month or two later. And so we got out there and we found, that's why we moved. We were over in the La Sierra community. We're now in the Hunter Park area, moved into a new building. We're in 2 buildings now. But how many companies can say their entire workforce insisted? I had 2 people tell me they'd quit if we didn't come back in-house. And it told me that
people like
there
it.
really is some love going on here. There people actually experience joy. And that really bothers me on LinkedIn and things like that. When every expert out there tells me that if I don't offer remote work, that your people are going to leave and they're not going to be happy. And I'm like, well, we did offer it. Nobody wanted it. So how about you focus on developing a culture people want to be there for instead of talking about putting people remote. Now, and that's not to say remote's a bad thing. We actually have one person, her husband's in the military. She moved to Kentucky. She's wonderful. We weren't going to terminate her over that. She works remote because of circumstances.
That's what I'm saying. I think remote is great. It opens up the options of people, but I think community and being in-house.
It's amazing.
If you have good culture, there's nothing that people want to be part of a community. Yeah. But if you have a great employee and they have to leave somewhere,
sure, you're going to support
my
that.
my assistant lives in Tennessee, and so it's like I would never replace her because she's so great.
And those are things that you try to make work out. So we're Zooms. Well, we use Teams, but they're all day long, and there's her face. So she's engaged. She's asked us to try to put a robot so she can walk around. I was like, okay, well, maybe one day.
Let's pump the brakes.
But, that's really how bad she wants to be in the workforce. So that was the first thing that I noticed that made a pretty tremendous difference, or not made a tremendous difference, was a complete difference from what I was hearing out there in the chatter world. The second thing I noticed is after COVID, I was visiting a lot of our vendors. And it happened to be at lunchtime because I'd go and take a tour and then we'd go to lunch. But I noticed when that lunch bell rang or whatever, that everybody's scattered. So you'd have 2 people, you had 25 tables out, and there might be 2 people there, 1 person at the microwave, but everyone else scattered. They're in their car, they're outside, maybe 2 or 3 of them went for a walk. And then I went back to our workspace, and when the lunch bell rang, everyone was sitting together. So much so that we had to keep telling them, you have to move those desks apart because of, still trying to maintain some social distancing. But if you walked in today, you'll see our desk our tables are stacked on top of each other. And you probably thought we moved them out of the way to have a meeting. And no, that's where they want them because they're a community. Like you said, they're a family and they sit together, kind of like the firehouse. In the firehouse, you sat together at lunch.
Together and eat.
And you shared stories. And that's what I've noticed. And that was the second one of those tests that I unintentionally went, I think we're doing something right.
Have you guys always had culture like that?
No.
Or that's something
No.
how long do you
Not
think
at
it
all.
took you to really get that going? Because I think some people think culture is going to be like, oh, we're just going to do this.
No.
Culture is hands
Years.
down the hardest thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Culture is the worst. Not the worst, but it's the greatest. But when it's so hard to get there.
Yeah, no, it started when around 2016, as we were growing. I started with the company in 2012, and early focus was numbers.
Because you got to produce.
It was growing the company. It was selling. It was making things happen. And then as we were more successful, we started really just letting customers down. I said, I know about this lean. I had a Six Sigma background. I was like, we got to become more lean. So we started studying it, and then I went over to Toyota actually, and I went on a work study mission. Went to Toyota, went to a bunch of their tier 1, 2, and 3 suppliers. We actually even went to a school and looked at the Japanese culture. But probably the biggest change to me personally was I met with former CEO of Toyota Kentucky and vice president of Lexus, Mr. Amazawa, and I notoriously late. In those days, and I didn't want to be late to this meeting. And so I showed up at 5:30 for 6 o'clock. Yeah, it wasn't until 6:30. So I was actually really early. And he was there, and we sat down. And of course, my first question, like most leaders, was, how do I fix my people? And he turned to me and he said, you can't. You can only fix yourself. And until you can work on yourself, you can never help anyone else. You have to fix the things about you that are a problem. And then you can help share your journey, and you can help mentor and lead, but you can only work on yourself. And so I went on a personal mission of becoming a better person. And then I started to realize the impact that truly respecting people had, and how if I'm miserable, they're miserable, the world's miserable, work sucks, and all those different things. And so as I started to evolve as a person and started to find more temperance, and some of these virtues that really changed who I was to be a better husband, father, leader, I started realizing during that journey that I really have to respect our people, and I really have to develop and do what I can as a leader to reinforce that in the workplace. And then, of course, at the time, we had a couple of good leaders like that, and we went on a journey of self-discovery, which turned into a journey of community self-discovery. And how can we just become better people? And realizing that right people, right? See, we weren't talking traction. I never even heard of it back then.
I didn't know about it until a year ago.
So it kind of the same thing that, making sure we have. We use a rowboat analogy because we don't talk about teams too often, because think about it. Last night's a good example of Monday Night Football. I mean, you got one player who's doing well, but everyone else is not. You're not going to win anything. We look at that family. But the closest thing to a team we have is kind of a rowing team. Because if you think about a rowing team, one person is off just one little bit.
It's all off.
It's off. And the leader of that rowing team, they're setting the vision, they're seeing what's going on, but they're setting the tempo, and they're generating motivation, and they're doing those things. But that team has to be in rhythm at all times. And man, how do I even get into talking about that? So back to the cultural side of it, that family, we realize that we really have to be a family. We have to be that rowing team, and we have to support each other 100%. And the only way we can do it is if we love each other. And that started a change in who we were as a culture into 2008, in 2019, 2020. More than half of the people that were with us at that time are no longer with us.
Yeah, and
we went through a revolutionary change.
It's people. You gotta take the time to get the right people.
Yeah.
I've made that mistake so many times. I've just hired because I needed bodies, and we had leads coming in, and I needed people to call, but I never took the time. And I didn't get that until I started studying and following people. One thing I was learning, you can't. One of my coaches, John Shevlik, he's like, you can never motivate someone.
Yeah.
He's like, if they're not motivated, they're just not going to be motivated. Yeah. You can lead, you can show motivation, but if you think that they weren't motivated before at another company, if they come to you, there's nothing special by it. He always says there's nothing special about you. Stop thinking you're better than everyone else, because you're not. And it's something that's a big thing I've learned. You're not better than. You're just like everyone else. If you think you're so much better than everyone, and you're gonna bring in this person, and you're gonna magically change them, you're not. Just go find the next person.
Right. You can demotivate.
True.
But you can't motivate. Yeah.
Yes.
No, it's got to be in that person, and you got to make sure that you hire for your culture. And to your original question statement about time, it takes years.
Oh.
So we're about 6 years into this journey, and as a small organization, relatively small organization, and I like looking at from a lean perspective, and I think culture is a big part of that now. We're in this 365-day journey, and it's 9 a.m. on day one. Now we're 9 hours ahead of most people.
Yes.
But we still have a long way to go, and we're not even close to there. We still make a lot of mistakes, and I still fail as a leader on a regular basis. And the important thing, though, is I have to learn from it, and I have to be open to receiving feedback and being coached and moving my ego out of the way. That's a killer for leaders, is ego. Ryan Holiday's book, Ego is the Enemy, was one of the first books I read coming back from Japan. It's a great book, and gosh, I didn't even mention that, but ego, you got to throw that out the door as much as you can. I mean, we all have a little bit of ego, but that can't dictate how you live.
They can't,
as a
and
leader.
it can't dictate how you make your decisions.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And so,
And it's crazy. I feel like, and I'd love to know your opinion about this. I feel like people that are at the lower levels have more ego that I've met than the really, really high people, because like the really, really high people will like call someone like way should not, like if you go like track record, like this person's way better than, but this person knows something so much more than that person. They have no problem like, hey, how do you do that? Okay, I'm gonna do it just like you, and then the next day they're doing it. Or if someone's here and they go like, no, I got this. You're like, you don't.
well, I think that's because they got to that position because they didn't have
Exactly. It's
that
just,
same level of ego.
That has probably changed my world. Like
It's huge.
like seeing people I had one guy call me. I'm like you know when like your phone's ringing, you're like, why is this guy like, is he butt dialing? I have so like that happened. I'm like, hello, and he's like, hey, I have a question. I saw your video the other day. How do you do XYZ? Okay, great. Can you send me a text of everything, all the equipment you use? We're gonna order and do it. Then the next day, like 2 days later, I saw him shoot the same video. I was like, wow, like and it was like 5-minute call. Like, okay, thank you, bye. Like no BS,
Wow.
no. I was like, oh my, and then instantly put in action.
You know I can waste no time, cause I gotta keep it tight. I'm in my bag, got my eyes on the price. You know I can waste no time, cause I gotta keep it tight. I'm in my bag, got my eyes on the price. You know I can waste no time, cause I gotta keep it tight. Give me the bass, give me the beat. I'm in my bag, this round is on me. Give me the bass, give me the beat. I'm in my bag, this round is on me. Give me the bass, give me the beat. I'm in my bag, this round is on me. Give me the bass, give me the beat. I'm in my bag, this round is on me.
How do you handle, because you're thinking 5, 10, 15 years out of a company, how do you handle like if you're not moving as fast as you want? This is a question totally for me.
Yeah, well, traction obviously comes into play with that. So setting up those rocks and making sure that you're delivering on those. And we're still new into the traction journey. So it's setting realistic expectations through that process. Because I think a lot of times we don't grow as fast as we want to because we really didn't have a plan to get to that point. It's that roadmap. You know, it's the same thing. It's Google Maps, really.
Yeah.
Like you got to know where you're going, of course, but at the same time, you got to know that you can get there. So if I said I want to go to New York tomorrow in my car, I'm not going to get there by tomorrow. So I've got to probably say tomorrow I want to be in Amarillo, and the next day I want to be in Chicago, and the day after that, you know, whatever the right distances are. As far as not reaching that, it's conducting risk analysis and true risk analysis. I'm big on understanding the root cause of things. So it's going back and, well, first off, setting the right expectation. You know, SMART goals, as cheesy as that may sound, absolutely are the most important thing to set. But it's setting a realistic expectation. If you have that and then you don't accomplish it, you need to do some root cause analysis. I said risk analysis, but I meant root cause analysis. You need to go back and look at why. And then you got to go, why? And then you got to ask why. And so you'll hear 5 why talked about in a lot of Lean and Six Sigma circles, but you got to. So why didn't we accomplish X? Because of this and that. Well, why? Well, that because of this. Well, why? Because we didn't have the right person in this position. Well, because of why? Well, because they were working on the other 3 projects. And so you get down to understanding what the true root cause is on that. And then hopefully you're able to apply those countermeasures to make sure that you can hit that goal the next time around. So I don't know if that answers your question, but it's important to really, it's not just going, okay, we didn't miss it.
Yeah.
Let's go on to the next project. It's investing the time to understand why you didn't accomplish
Yeah,
that.
my biggest thing is I get stagnation is like my biggest frustration. Like I can't stand when I feel like we're hitting the same. Like for us, it's like normally transactions or whatever. It's like we're arguing about the same thing we argued about 3 days ago. We're arguing about the same thing we are. Like I'm like, can we just move? Like that for me is like I'm kind of excited to move offices because I've been here 6 years. So I'm like, I'm ready for like a new, fresh start.
Yeah.
You know, like that's
It can
for
be
me. It's
reinvigorating,
stagnation. Yeah, stagnation for me is like my number one pet peeve. It's probably like I don't mind failing. Failing's like I'd rather fail than be stagnant.
Well, you can't grow without failing either.
Because stagnant for me is like that. You're not doing anything. You're not failing. You can't move on from the situation because you technically haven't failed yet and you haven't reached the goal yet. So it's like you're in this like, And then that's time that you're wasting. And like yesterday, I was like, I literally did nothing all day. I argued to the same email with the same 5 people all day today, and nothing got solved. I'm like, I should have went and played golf today. I should have done the same thing.
I can't say that. I mean, I gave you an answer of best case, and on an everyday basis, we have the same problems. Mm-hmm. We do it, in our level 10 meetings, we're talking about the same thing. And I'm like, why? What happened to the fix we put into it 3 months ago? But I think it's important to make sure that you're at least trying to study the why and understand that. And then pivoting. Yeah. Making changes.
You got to keep making changes.
Or getting rid of it. It's not a good idea. It didn't work because it was a dumb idea.
Yeah.
So dump it.
I actually have a interesting. How did you go from as a firefighter? Were you a captain?
No.
Just a firefighter to a CEO?
I have a business background too. So I was a volunteer firefighter out in Riverside, and so I actually came from a financial institution. So I had 17 years on a corporate level and one of the larger banks. I won't say which one, but and then I left that, and I did have the fire service background, and I knew the owner of the company, Ray Russell, from the fire days, and then I was volunteering and working for the bank, and so it started with hey, can you give me a hand on this project? To why don't you just come over and help us with this? To the next thing of, would you like to come work for the company? And at the time I was like, yeah, I guess so. It's kind of fun. It's relative to my background, and I still like the fire service, and I can apply some business principles. But oh my God, it was such a difference, because I came from this corporation with hundreds of thousands of employees, with 20 people worked on this project to 6 of us, and the frustrations that came in of, why don't we have a team to work on this?
Yeah.
Oh, I have to do it.
Yeah.
Or why can't we accomplish this? Or thinking about the fact that, we have to buy a computer. Oh, it's not on the budget. A computer's on the budget. And it's a blessing when you get to the point where you don't have to think about that stuff. But that was kind of how my transition came. So, I had that fire service background. The time in the volunteer experience was applicable to that community background, and then working for a financial institution on really a corporate scale. I still didn't know what I was doing, but I thought I did. And so I came in and said, all right, this is what we're going to do. And I didn't take over as CEO. I started at some reason as CFO, but I really wasn't the CFO. No. I was more of the kind of the person to look through all the contracts and kind of audit everything we were doing, and then looking at the sales potential of a wonderful product, a great family business. But it was in some ways a hobby. And I came in with we can continue being a hobby, but then I'm going to go work somewhere else, or we can become a business. And they were like, absolutely, let's grow the business. And so we've grown exponentially since that time. And
because most founders should not be CEO. Like, most founders get the ball rolling, but then it's like bringing in that person that can take it to that next level.
It always outgrows you, and it's going to outgrow me. If it doesn't outgrow me, I didn't do a very effective job of what I'm doing. Yeah, so, I mean, for one, I want to retire in the next, let's say 10 years or less, because I found somebody better, and they're going to take over. That should be the objective of every leader, is finding someone to be better than you, to take your spot. But, the other thing, and I think it's Gerber, the E-Myth, there's another book called the E-Myth, and he talks about the fact that a lot of us go into business because we're good at doing something in our job and we're tired of working for somebody. So then we go into business working for ourselves, but we're still working for somebody, and we're still a technician, and we don't become leaders. And that's why I think a lot of businesses struggle, is because that person comes in and they don't become a leader, they become a doer. And that's where I think a lot of founders and CEOs sit, and it really stagnates your ability to grow. So it's important to start bringing in the right people.
And then you have to grow to make the margins big enough for then you to go higher, and then it's a play like that place. Like,
and it's quite expensive. I will say this though: we're blessed here in Riverside, in the county of Riverside. There's some incredible programs, on the job training programs that the county offers through workforce development. The county and the city have been, and even the state for that matter, have been very instrumental in our ability to grow. There's a lot of resources out there, and you may think, it's taking taxpayer money. No, it's your money because you paid into that.
Exactly.
ETP funds that you can get training and you can upskill and uptrain your people. That stuff is something you paid into as a corporation. Just get that money back and use it to better your people. Those on-the-job training programs. We have wonderful relationships with the county, and it's because, well, for one, we're if they ask for something, we're right there, of course. But it's because they helped us get to this point. And so, growing is hard, but there's some resources out there. And there's peer-to-peer mentoring groups to grow as a leader. And there's different, there's just conversations like this that leaders can take.
And I also think it shouldn't be easy. That's something I tell myself all the time. It shouldn't be easy, and it's not going to be easy, because if it was easy, everyone would do it.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard.
Absolutely.
Like I try to, like when everything, I'm like, it's going to be hard. Like this is going to be, like whatever we're going through right now, everyone's like, oh, the economy, 8% rates, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, it's going to be hard. Cross that list. Okay, what's next?
How do you overcome it?
Like, I have no, goes back to ego. We're talking about, like, I already know people are going to be like, oh, why is Adam moving his office? Like, is things tougher? I'm having my biggest year ever. But I'm also not dumb where I'm like, okay, we're out, the lease is up. Let's cut overhead in half. How can we extend that other half to grow the company? We don't need this space. Like, It's not an ego. It's the ego would stay here. It's not. It's
just to show everyone.
Just to show. Oh, I could handle it. But paying $6,000 a month for an office that we can go and spend $2,000 a month down the street to take that $4,000 to maybe hire an employee, or honestly, we'll probably hire a marketing firm. But like, we could take that $4 to invest, and then if that $4 can make us $100, like,
so much smarter.
It's so much smarter. But too many people want to go like, well, like, what are people gonna think about me moving my office and going to rent an office? I don't care.
And that comes into play in a lot of things. I mean, think about it. I mean, there's not a lot of CEOs that run around with boots and jeans on all the time, and they're trying to impress the next person. I'd rather impress you with accomplishments than what I drive or how I dress.
And a conversation. The ability to have a great conversation with people is like all I search for now. Like I can imagine. I have one of my builders who builds some of our projects. What book should I read? I'm like, stop. Listen, I've read a lot of books. I don't think you should need to read books. Why? I'm like, you just got to go meet more people. Go get more rooms and have more conversations. Like, what are you going to read that you're going to, it's like, just go meet more people and have great conversations.
And find some mentors.
Oh, mentors
have a dozen of them if you can.
You should have per person, like, this is who I go to this. And not, because not everyone's great at everything. Like, you got to have this coach and this coach and this coach. I just made a video and people were laughing, or a lot of people went, well, I'm like, just start treating your life like an NFL, like a basketball team or NFL team. I'm like, you care so much about your team that you root for, but they have coaches, and if they had a bad player, that you're asking, like, but then you don't even treat your own life that way. Right. You want no help from anyone. You don't want to partner up with anyone. Like, LeBron wouldn't even have a championship if he didn't go to Miami. Like, let's stop.
That you have to open that up. You have to, and that's really gets in the way of a lot of people's growth, is they just think, I don't have time for that, or what do they know? They don't know anything about my business.
Or you're worried, or you're not winning enough, so you're not making enough money, so you're like, I don't want to give more money to someone, but then you don't realize that doing that will open you up to more free time for you to make even more money.
Right.
It's so short-sighted.
Or like this. How many people are like, well, I don't have time to go do a podcast. And I'm like, I don't have time not to do it. How much do I learn in this interaction? Yeah. What kind of engagement? I mean, maybe one of your listeners, or maybe 100
or we
of them
clip this
will
up,
reach out to me and say, hey, you talked about this. I have an idea for you.
Yeah.
One of the greatest things, we do tours. So we open our business to tours. Tuesdays at 7 a.m., you get about 2.5 hour experience. You learn about Lean. You learn about our culture. You come to our morning meeting, our onboarding process, all the things.
I'm totally coming to that.
Oh, we'd love to have
Perfect.
you. But those tours, you know how many times somebody came in and said, how come you guys do it this way? And we were like, that's a really good question. I don't know. And we've made changes by a student from a high school or an accountant somewhere that asked about why we had tools the way we did. We learn all the time, because you have to be open not only to listening to people that you think are above you. You got to listen to everybody.
Oh, yeah.
The most important person in a business, I'll say, is either the janitor or, the security guard or whoever it is, because they've got the eye on everything. They know what's going on, but they also may be brilliant. And if you ignore people because you think they're not on that scale and their status, you're an idiot.
The problem is I've met a lot of rich people that are really dumb. And I'm like, how did they get there? And then I've met other people.
Well, politicians, how many?
Oh,
I mean, I'm not going to say anyone in this area, but I mean, we got some great people here. I won't make any comment on that. But on a global scale, or even on a local scale over time, how many times? I know when I was younger, I had this like. I always thought of people in Congress on a
high level,
on a super high level, and then you talk to them, and you're like.
Which nowadays I think with social media and how much videos out there now that like you get more exposed.
I think you do
because it's how do you like I tell people all the time like they want to do this right and I'm like okay you have to be the same person in this podcast that you're gonna go meet with someone because you can't turn it on and off.
Sure,
there's too much. I'm on video way too much. Like I can't fake it. So politicians they were so used to. Only being on maybe CNN or no one having cell phone.
Safe space.
Where they kind of knew the question. Now it's like you're out in the streets and people see you and they're going to ask you questions and you might be having a bad day or whatever. You can't BS it anymore.
Well, there's a camera on you 24/7.
All the time. Yeah.
So it's, but at the same time, the smartest politicians, the smartest leaders, they're going to those subject matter experts and asking them why, how, what should we do? You're listening to everybody. And that's what I love about like the Chamber of Commerce. I go to, I'm involved with the Chamber of Commerce and I do various things. We don't sell a single helmet as a result of working with the Chamber.
Of course not.
But we had the golf tournament yesterday talking about, you should have went golfing with us, I guess. But we went out, we had that golf tournament yesterday and I had 4 or 5 conversations and I learned about some business stuff. We talked about personnel related things. I learned about a legislative bill that got signed that's going to affect us. I mean, I had those conversations and it was across all kinds of people. I'll go to a chamber event, Good Morning Riverside or whatever, and I'll meet somebody that just one employee, they just started their company, they're selling product X and they know nothing about business. They just really want to do it. And I'd be happy to help them in any way I can, but I'd also be happy to learn from them. Why did they get into it? What got you over the first hump? How, there's things I need to refresh on and learn about. And so we've got to have an open mind. And that's kind of the theme of this whole conversation has been an open mind, whether it has to do with diversity, with learning from others, with recognizing that you're not the best and the greatest. It's having an open mind. And, there's a great book by Carol Dweck called Mindset, which talks about, people that have closed minds and open minds and the success of those with the open minds. And that's probably the biggest thing any leader or any employee for that matter can have is that open mind.
I think if we had more open minds, we have less issues in this world.
In the whole world.
Oh my God. If people just had more of the ability to listen to another side and not be so shut off for the moment they speak that you already like every argument, if you really go into it, somewhere it has some good point.
Absolutely.
It's just being able to not shut off before you hear the good point, or you just discredit them immediately.
Yeah, and that is unfortunately where we're at as a country.
It's right now. I think we're too black and white.
Divisive.
You're too this or that. It's not. It's blend.
Right.
It
has to be.
Has to be.
There has to be.
That's the only way this works.
Where and I have my stances and beliefs on certain things, but if you and I were completely different on something, I'd be more than happy to talk to you about it because I want to know where I'm wrong.
And I think that's why corporations do so well more than the government. Nothing against government, but it's like if they allow people being divided, the company doesn't do well, which is worse service, which is worse revenue, which is goes out of business. Where the government can't go out of business, so they can just argue. But like in corporate world,
move somebody over,
or in corporate world, like you have to blend together. There's CEOs and CFOs that probably don't believe everything the same. But the overall, like your company, you have, over 30 employees. Not everyone believes the same thing, but...
No, we have 36 or so completely different opinions.
Exactly. And so, but at the end of the day, when you have good culture and you have love for each other, that means it's okay.
Yeah. It definitely makes a difference. And it's hard.
Oh, yeah.
To this day, I still will come in and say, no, you're wrong about something and fix it. And then step back and go, maybe they were wrong.
Yeah.
But I should... make sure that I'm giving them the opportunity to be successful at that. And, just think about sports. I have a favorite team in college football and in pro football, and they're the best team, period. And I don't care what your team has to say. But, I started playing fantasy football.
Oh.
Now I got to pay attention to everyone's
Yeah.
team and look for, I can't pick my team. My quarterback sucks. So I got to pick somebody else. So it kind of opened my mind in that sports environment to go, I got to find the qualities that exist in everyone's team.
And then the worst part about it is if the team that you hate is your rival, but then you have a fantasy player on that team, you need them to play well, but not win.
That happened this weekend.
But not win. I want them to do well enough, but don't
Yeah.
win.
Happened this weekend. I had to root for.
So are you a golfer?
I am. Well, no, let me say that again. I've been playing golf
play
for 30
golf.
years, but I have no idea what I'm doing out there.
Really?
So I hack like crazy.
Anytime you want to play, let me know.
It's fun. I do enjoy golf, and I have my moments. I'll go out and have 2 or 3 good holes,
Yeah.
and that just kind of. Sometimes I just want to leave right then.
If you ever want to play a Victoria Club, let me know.
Let's do it.
I'm a member.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Take it out anytime. I just played Lake Arrowhead yesterday. So.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a good time. So,
Yeah.
I truly enjoyed this.
Well, good. I
You know what's
appreciate that.
crazy about this room? I swear to God, this is what people I've had. And one day I've had people who breed French bulldogs that I would never had a conversation with them. They were like guys, like big black dudes, and we had the most fun and we were laughing and now we're really good friends. It's like you just never know where I had a guy who builds typewriters in here, and it was a great conversation.
Really?
And that was in the same day, like right after each other.
Still building to this day?
Yeah, he still builds.
No kidding.
Yeah, he builds typewriters, and it's like hearing his way, how a certain typewriter makes him write a certain way because of how aggressive the keys are and how things like that. And I was like, wow, I've never used a typewriter before. I wouldn't even know that. And he's like, typewriters are the last way you could write stuff down where no one knows about it. Like if you put it on the computer, it could be hacked. It could be emailed or whatever. He's like, but it's like the ability. I love that I started doing this just for conversations, and it
I think
has
it's great
made me
because
learn
you're
so
diverse,
much.
too.
Oh, it's everything.
Yeah.
Literally,
I love that.
Literally, it's everything. And the reason we started doing it was COVID, because a lot of small businesses don't know how to do marketing. They don't know how to promote themselves. They don't. And I started realizing, I'm like, cool, we got the housing thing down, but I have clients that are struggling right now because their businesses are going under, or they don't know how to promote themselves, or they have a nonprofit. They can, you know what? We have the tools. Let's build a podcast room. Let's interview them, and then let's chop up the videos, give it to them so they can promote
I
themselves.
love it. No, I think it's wonderful.
It's the way we get. So when people go like, "What's your ROI?" I'm like, "It could be 0. I don't care. Like I'm not here to. This isn't to make money.
No, it's that better world.
It's a better world thing." And I've had so many people sit across here being like, "You're the first person of all my friends and family to have ever asked me about my business." And I'm like, "Wow, really?"
Wow.
They're like, you're the first person that's ever helped me promote my own business. All right, cool. Let's
So
do
we
it.
need to make it infectious. We need everyone to think the same way.
Agree.
You know
I can waste no time, cause I gotta keep it tight. I'm in my bag, got my eyes on the price. I can waste no time, cause I gotta keep it tight. I'm in my bag, got my eyes on the price. I can waste no time, cause I gotta keep it tight. Give me the bass, give me the beat. I'm in my bag, this round is on me. Give me the bass, give me the beat. I'm in my bag, this round is on me. Give me the bass, give me the beat. I'm in my bag, this round is on me. Give me the bass, give me the beat. I'm in my bag, this round is on me.
you got to make money. I mean, you've
But
got
the
to be
real estate
successful as a
side does
business.
that. That's why I tell people the real estate side. We'll sell 50 brand new houses this year. Like that's done. We locked that down. So now we have the ability to do more.
Yeah, so we're doing the same thing.
100%. Like, I look at it as the when you have to get really successful to then allow you have to do all the stuff you really don't want to do with work to get to a point where that's running like a machine so you can actually do the things that you actually want
Absolutely.
to do. And hopefully those things are not just, driving yachts or whatever. Those are, helping people and giving back and promoting people and, those kind of things.
I think the rewards are, and don't get me wrong, I mean, I travel, my wife and I travel all over the world. We love traveling. You have to have an income to do that.
Yeah.
But, if I could travel for free, then I'd be reinvesting all my money in that because I get so much more out of the development of people. And I don't think it's a bad thing when people leave the company, depending on the reason for that. If they promote, because there's only so many
You can only go so
opportunities.
far, yeah.
And the greatest thing in the world, and we've got some great examples of this, of people that doubled their income or took a new role and they're doing an incredible job. We celebrate that. That's a promotion. It's just not with us. And so I'm hoping they take our culture
Move it around.
I'll use infect because I can't think of a different word, but infect another company with that, move it around. But those are positive things. Think about, like students.
That's showing that the company's doing well.
It's incredible to know that the legacy you're actually leaving when that day happens is one where you impacted a lot of lives, not just made a lot of money.
And a lot of people say you make a bigger impression when people leave, not when they come in.
Some cases.
That's the truth.
Yeah.
So what's the best way for people to see your stuff, find you guys, more or less? Obviously, I don't think I'm going to have too many firefighters watching this thing, but like just when, how are you going to announce when you're done with this school for more companies to take it from you?
Yeah, so the shameless plug is I need employers. Employers that are willing to let us help you open up opportunities for people that really face the most significant barriers to employment. Let's make a big difference. Let's improve your workforce, but let's also change some lives. I need some employers, and they can reach out to Learn, Learn, at Phenix, Phenix, firehelmets.com. You can also schedule a tour that way. I can give you the details right now. But for anyone else, if you want to come tour our facility, it's learn at phenixfirehelmets.com. If you want to talk to me, unless you're trying to sell me on something, hit me up on LinkedIn. That's probably the best thing. I try to stay pretty active on that. I'd say email me, but I get 350, 400 emails a day. So my assistants go through that anyway. And if I don't know you, they're going to delete it out. But yeah, reach out on LinkedIn. Our website is www.phenix, remember, we're lean. We took the O out. There's no point in that. Phenix, firehelmets.com. And, just come visit us. We're right here on Durahart, 3453 Durahart Street. We got an incredible museum over there that's got fire memorabilia dating back to the 1600s. And, our doors are open. We want to share not just our success, but who we are with, it doesn't have to be a firefighter. I mean, we love our firefighters, and the Riverside firefighters come in all the time, so they know how to get a hold of us, but we want the whole community to come visit. And
I think there's more. I think the product might be different, but company and business and culture and all that, it's really the same.
Absolutely. And we actually do have a product, and I won't bring it up too much now, but we do have a product that can go in any home that we sell. It's a waste system that is very, very low carbon footprint, very low plastic usage, and that's for another podcast. Yeah. It's a great product. So we can teach you about that by coming in, and we can learn more about that.
Awesome, man. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Guys, make sure you follow them. If you're a company and you're looking for this, send them a message or an email on LinkedIn and try to find out more so we can help these people in need, man. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Until next time, guys. Peace.